Uh, and we are back. Uh, I don't even know where to start with this week. It's interesting. It took me a lot to get to this point. This is the last day of the working week, and I usually don't record this late. Um, Honestly, I thought I was gonna skip this week, especially after episode 10. Then that was a major milestone for us, and I wanted to. I don't know. I didn't. I told myself I wanted to take a break, but truly I didn't want to take a break. But then as the week progressed, I felt like, yo, all right, maybe you should take a break, and I really didn't want to do this. My At least one of my kids are home from school this week. Well, two of them. My oldest as well. So it's been interesting, and yeah, but we are here, and we can knock this out. And as always, we'll start off by mindfulness, just focusing on our breath to get us present in the moment. Even with the sirens, I think that helps because it allows us to kind of get rid of the distractions. And we're going to do that starting now. And we're here. We all always, like clockwork, we always follow that up with a puzzle or a riddle, something to get our minds going. And we're going to start off with that. Uh, I'll go with this one. What is easy to catch? Or what can you catch but can never throw? What can you catch but can never throw? And as that as we think through that, I want to start the conversation. Like I said, there was a lot going on this week. Since last week, I think I was traveling and I came back, and then we had a couple family outings, and I rarely get sick. Like I don't get sick. But when I do go out, like I could feel like my body fighting something, and this is one of those days where I feel like I'm fighting something, but I don't really feel sick, but I feel something in my throat. But usually by tomorrow, by the next day, I feel okay. So today, though, I want to talk about um, artificial intelligence, AI, and how it impacts creativity. Um, there's a much bigger conversation in regards to technology in general. How does technology impact how we create? How does it impact the human side of us? I've always been, as much as I am a technologist, a lot of people know me for that. I always say, I think in the first conversation we've ever had, I said I never describe, as much as I am a technologist, I never describe myself as such. I always say I'm a creative whose creativity takes shape in the form of technology. I think there's a certain stigma that comes with technologists or futurists or people who are kind of the spokesperson for technology and figure out how it affects us as within a society. And that is, I don't think that I fit in that box, only because I have reservations when it comes to technology, especially technology that is not like human centered, where humans weren't considered in the original design of it, and it's almost like we started accounting for humans later on or after the fact, and that is scary. Beyond that, AI in particular, my original, I think AI is a powerful tool. Maybe we'll talk through what the benefits of those, the benefits of artificial intelligence is in regard from the grand scheme of things. But for me, AI pulls from the internet, and the internet can in some instances or in a lot of instances be biased. which means that there's a lot of bias associated with AI. And there's institutions, organizations, individuals working towards helping to eliminate that bias. But that's a huge battle to overcome. And be in its inception and throughout this entire process of the introduction of artificial intelligence, I've always had that reservation. And generative AI in particular, that bias is evident in a lot of what it generates. And so I was resistant to it. And I wrote a piece about it in Forbes, one that I recently just went back to. Matter of fact, I had my oldest daughter read it to me yesterday, which was interesting because she's only 9, and just the idea of artificial intelligence and technology itself, it's as much as she is into technology, going into some level of detail is still relatively new to her. So it was kind of good to see her talk through those things. But in the piece, it was titled, "Why Does Technology Scare Us?" And I've been a part of the introduction of a lot of technology. Well, a few technologies, especially recent technologies, into America, into the spaces that I occupy. Like, I've been a thought leader in that regard. AI, I was resistant to it because I always I wanted to always make sure that I account for the human side of technology. And I feel like AI was trying to replicate human behavior so well that we didn't actually need humans anymore. That is like the theme. I always tell people how you measure AI is how closely it comes to human behavior, because we are the muse for AI. There is no AI if there needs to be intelligence before you can create an artificial version of it. And because of the fear of technology and the fear mongering associated with every introduction of every new technology, we have a bunch of creative people who fear artificial intelligence, and it replacing them and the gift that they give to the world. And there was a quote that I saw that I referenced to. It says, "Artificial AI will replace those who think it will." I don't think AI will replace me, for several reasons, and they all tie back to the idea of creativity and what it is and what that means. You remember when we sat down and we talked about what is creativity and the creative process, and it was this idea of this 3-stepped idea. And the first one was using your intuition to formulate a first impression, then your awareness to establish a connection, and then your imagination to expand upon the possibilities. And there is intuition, self-awareness, and some form of imagination that ties back to those two. The first two is human qualities, and that is hard for any machine, doesn't matter how advanced it is, to replicate those. And I feel like we tend to forget that. We tend to forget that creativity is an innately human characteristic. And as long as we remain human, creativity is going to come natural to us. And that is the thing that artificial intelligence is trying to replicate, right? The human aspect of us. But we have emotions, we have feelings, we share moments with each other that you can't put into words. And for a lot of it, AI is based on prompts, right? You know that feeling, like I just said, that feeling you get when you're like, I can't even put it into words. And if you can't put it into words, AI cannot generate it. And that is what will always be the upper hand or the advantage we have over artificial intelligence. It can only create or generate from things that you can properly describe, right? That's why prompt engineers are promised so much, because you need to be able to formulate a prompt so well defined and structured for you to get the answer that you truly desire. But some things you just can't put into words. Some feelings you cannot put into words. And as long as those moments and those feelings and those emotions exist, the ones that you cannot put into words, AI can never replace it. With that said, there are some benefits for artificial intelligence. There's actually a lot. And when ChatGPT was first introduced, generative AI, because there's this association where when you hear AI, the first thing you think about is ChatGPT, and I don't blame you, because it's the most robust, the most readily available, it's the most advanced, depends on who you talk to, version of artificial intelligence that is available to the general public. But when you hear AI, you naturally think of ChatGPT. But I didn't want to use ChatGPT. I think I don't remember the exact time it came out, but it took me 6 months at least to be able to create an account and access it. And I don't know what brought me to it, if there was something in particular that triggered me to go and start to play with it, but I did. And I did a few prompts. There was something in particular that I think I wanted to have written, and it did it better than I imagined. I felt like I cheated the system. I felt like I was disloyal to my creative colleagues. I felt like I betrayed them because I used artificial intelligence to create. And I couldn't even, if I'm honest, I couldn't even look myself in the mirror like for the next 20 minutes, because here I was feeling how I felt about artificial intelligence, generative AI, and I used it. And I was happy with what it produced. And that was tough for me. But then after thinking through it, I realized that AI is a tool. It's no different than any tool that any creative uses, right? And on us, for us, it's about how we leverage that tool, especially to our advantage. And I think there's a plethora of ways that we can leverage AI to help with our creative process. One that I'm thinking about is just like writer's block. A lot of the times we hit a roadblock in our creative process where we feel uninspired, unmotivated to want to do anything. And we need a trigger. And sometimes that trigger is as simple as a prompt that says, what can a creative in this particular field talk about, write about, draw, compose, formulate to get out of a creative slump? Give me some ideas on things to create in this particular field, whatever your field is, the legal field, medical field, art, sports, entertainment. And oddly enough, ChatGPT is going to give you those ideas generative AI is going to return that based on a wide range of data sources. And you'd be surprised at the list that you get back. And out of that list, they might not all be relevant, but enough will be relevant to inspire you to want to create. And that's one benefit of it. Another is automating the redundant processes. Last episode, we talked about redundancy and complacency, and then finding yourself in this rut because you keep doing tasks over and over that aren't necessarily require any kind of creativity. It's easy to create scripts to allow generative AI to perform tasks that you don't want to do. I always tell people, like when you think of your favorite restaurants and the chefs who either own it or are the head chefs at those particular restaurants. If it's a really good restaurant, there's so many patrons that attend, and that one chef cannot create every single meal that gets plated and placed in front of you. You have to hire help, and it is the chef's job to come up with the menu, the ingredients, and everything associated with putting that meal together. But that doesn't mean the chef has to be the one that's whipping the eggs. When he or she puts the recipe together, when they put the recipe together, they can pass that recipe over to whoever. And I think there's an opportunity for us as creatives to use artificial intelligence in that manner. The things that doesn't require too much of my personal, require the emotional, personal, creative aspect of me, I can pass on to ChatGPT and allow it to do what it does, not only to a standard, but at a frequency and a cadence that is unparalleled, right? It takes away busy work from you, and then you can focus on things that are more creative, that get you more energized, and more inspiring to you. And I think that's a great way for us to use ChatGPT or any artificial intelligence for that matter. Another thing is, and I think there's a hybrid approach there where you figure out the parts that you do want to do, and then you delegate. I mean, delegation has been a part of delegating work has been a part of any type of business model, right? You have to be able to decide where can I use my time best, and a lot of the times it's not doing the busy work; it's delegating that to someone or something in this particular case. And then another way that I think it'll be beneficial for us to use I keep saying ChatGPT instead of just artificial intelligence, but again, just for familiarity, another way is just understanding trends, understanding what our audience, our customers, the people who consume our creativity, our art, what are they looking for? What type of production are they gravitating towards? I think it gives us a great opportunity to test out our audience, our market, and see what people in these particular spaces are consuming. And how can we cater to them? And we can argue whether or not our creativity and art should cater to and everyone or anyone but ourselves. And we've had that discussion, and I don't know that we need to have that again, at least not now. But there's an opportunity to be able to use generative AI or artificial intelligence to be able to do that for you. And there's several other ways that we can use artificial intelligence to our advantage. And I think the the best way to go about finding those advantages of using it is just embracing it, right? Understand that as much as the narrative exists out there that it's going to take our jobs and it's going to displace us, I don't think it'll ever displace a creative, for the same reason that I said earlier. I think that we are the lifeline of artificial intelligence. AI does not know what art is if it wasn't for us creatives. AI doesn't know what creativity is if we didn't create examples of it for it to replicate and reproduce. When it measures creativity, it's against the things that we've created. And it uses our feedback from the things that it designs and develops to validate whether or not this is in fact creativity. This is in fact art. And we need to understand that. So once we start to embrace this idea of what artificial intelligence is and how we can leverage it to our advantage, I think there's an opportunity where this tandem approach, this hybrid approach with you and generative AI can produce remarkable things. I've seen amazing works of art comes from, because it what generative AI does, sometimes it goes beyond the realm of possibilities, and it allows us to think. We talked about limitations in our creativity a bunch of times in our conversation, but AI, it doesn't have those same human limitations, so it allows itself to go beyond what we think is normal, which is a huge part of our creative process. And if we don't set those limitations, it allows it to come up with ideas, and that's something we can use as well. And I'm saying that knowing that when we do allow ourselves to leverage artificial intelligence, a few things happen. There is a chance that whatever we create feels less human. Creativity is innately human. Artificial intelligence is not. It is artificial. It doesn't feel authentic. As much as you try, I think purists know, when you're around something authentic, something that has soul, something that has depth and character. And it's hard for artificial intelligence to replicate that authenticity. Beyond that, we spend all our lives as creatives to be authentic beings, to allow our art, our creativity to show who we are and what we are, and tell our deepest, darkest thoughts and secrets and feelings. And these projects come out, and we give it to the world, and then in 2 seconds, artificial intelligence replicates it, creates its own version of it that looks similar but doesn't feel the same. And your creative work is robbed from you because somebody else goes to generative AI and steals it. And that creation from artificial intelligence that took from your art, from your creativity, none of that is tied back to you. And I think for most creative, that is tough. That's a hard reality. No pun intended in the fact that we're talking about artificial intelligence and in reality. But so there's no ties back to you. It's there's no claim to intellectual property. It's hard to even copyright. I don't know that trademark laws have adjusted to accommodate, at least not at the rate of artificial intelligence. And we've seen artists, musicians get sampled and their voice stolen and used to create music that they have no royalties or rights to. And that's one of the drawbacks of it all, right? We talked about the bias associated with artificial intelligence. Again, it's pulling from an internet that, if we're honest, it is bias. And as much as there are stakeholders who are actively working in trying to eliminate this bias, that's a tall order. And I don't see, at least not in the foreseeable future, it being rectified to the point where you can safely interact with an unbiased artificial intelligence platform. And that's just me being honest. There is going to be job loss, but there will also be job creation. I've always said this. I think not accounting for this the truth that exists in the pyramids, or if we talk about technology linearly, that we are conscious of, and there's enough evidence to prove this thought process. There hasn't been a time where we've been more technologically advanced than today. If we go back 10 years, there's a significant reduction in technology, and so on. And for 100 years, 1,000 years, and I can argue that there are more jobs today than ever before. So there is a proportionality there, that with increase in technology comes increase in jobs. And that's been consistent throughout the history of time. So as much as there will be job displacement, there will also be job creation. And one of our gifts as human beings is our ability to adapt. And I think as we continue to evolve, and technology evolves along with us, I think we're going to find ways to create opportunities for us to make a living. And AI is not going to be the thing that stops that. We have more control over these systems than they want to give us credit for, whoever they is. But I don't want to go over too much with this. The conversations are always interesting. I didn't think we would get here today again, but I just had that thought. I wanted to share it out loud. You've given me a platform to do so, and I owe that to you, to be able to come on here and talk creativity with you. And I'm glad, I'm grateful, and I don't necessarily take that for granted. With that, I'll end with how we always start. The riddle that says, what can you catch but never throw? So a variation of that. What can you catch but never throw? A cold. Hopefully that's not what I have. I know a little itch, but I think I'll be fine. This is episode 11. We made it over the hump. Be great. Continue to be creative, and I will see you next week.